The weather models just did something they haven't done in weeks. And what they're showing for the next 14 days is going to shock you. Every single day, the forecasts are getting colder. Not warmer, colder. The models that predicted a mild Christmas break, they're backing off that prediction. Hour by hour, run by run, the pattern is shifting. And here's what nobody's talking about. The Mid-Atlantic and Northeast are about to get hammered with multiple snowstorms. In 30 seconds, I'm going to show you exactly why this changes everything. At the 3-minute mark, you'll see the ocean temperature data that proves this winter is different. And at the 5-minute mark, the Christmas forecast that will make you rethink your holiday plans. Let's start with what's happening right now, because time is running out. A clipper system is moving through tonight. And the snow totals just increased dramatically in the last model run. Areas that were forecast for 2 to 3 inches, now looking at 4 to 6 inches. West Virginia and Pennsylvania high elevations could approach 12 inches, a full foot of snow, tonight into tomorrow morning. But here's the twist that changes everything. The precipitation field isn't shifting, it's expanding. More areas are getting snow than originally forecast. D.C., Maryland, eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, southern New England, southern New York, Long Island. All of you are in the crosshairs. 4 to 6 inches is now the forecast for these areas. And it's coming fast. Tonight into tomorrow morning. That's your window. Now here's the question everyone should be asking. Why are the totals increasing? The answer is in how the energy is moving. The system is coming in linear, creating a quick blast of heavy snowfall. But there's no northward motion with the energy. It's curving just enough to extend the duration of snowfall. Longer duration equals higher totals. Simple math. And behind this snow, something far more significant is developing. Sunday night into Monday, the eastern seaboard is going to experience extreme cold. We're talking upper teens in southeastern Virginia. Areas that typically stay in the 20s or 30s are going to drop to 17, 18, 19 degrees. Why does this matter? Because it's a sign of something bigger happening. The ocean is cooling, fast. If you live on or near the coast, you know ocean temperatures control your winter weather. Warm ocean means rain instead of snow. Cool ocean means snow becomes possible. And here's the critical data. The ocean is cooling much quicker and much earlier than typical years. All these Arctic air masses we've seen over the past 2 weeks, they're not just making the air cold, they're making the ocean cold. And a cold ocean pays dividends for snow chances all winter long. The ocean becomes less of a limiting factor, which means coastal areas that struggle to get snow in normal years suddenly have a much better chance. This is setting up the rest of the winter, right now, in mid-December. Now let's talk about the pattern everyone's been panicking about on social media. The so-called Christmas torch, the warm-up that's supposed to cancel winter. Here's what the models actually show, and this is at the 5-minute mark where I promised you the real story. Yes, there's a brief milder trend around the 16th and 17th. But here's what's different from last week's forecast. It's not crazy mild anymore. The northern jet hangs out over the northern states with little dips and ridges. Nothing extreme. We get periodic mild troughs. But on Thursday the 18th, there's a pretty strong low just north of the upper peninsula of Michigan. That brings northern plains and upper Midwest snowfall. Even some showers and potential severe weather because it's a bit warmer for that period. But look what happens on the back end. This isn't an extreme trough like we've seen recently, but it's certainly not a warm pattern in the east. It's a cooler pattern. The jet stream does this thing where it remains well to the south. Sunday the 21st? We're probably dealing with some above normal temperatures in the deep south, but certainly not warm in most areas. And as we approach Christmas, another trough descends into the east. Christmas Eve shows another cold push. Not a major one, but a trough nevertheless. Definitely colder. Christmas Day and beyond, this is where it gets really interesting. A clipper system moves through very far to the north with a southward descent as it heads eastward. This could be a threat for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Now, we're at hour 282 in the models at this point, so we want to stay away from specifics. But the overall pattern is what matters. And the pattern shows snowfall, even to southern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. It's cold enough to support snow in Virginia and D.C. If the models are showing snow in D.C. and Virginia for Christmas week, we are not in a warm pattern. That's just not a torch at all. Here's the reality that's emerging run after run. The entire second half of December looks active and cold enough for multiple snowstorm opportunities. Both the European model and the GFS model are showing similar signals. And when two models agree this far out, you pay attention. Let me show you what both models are indicating. The European model shows multiple systems descending into the mid-Atlantic and northeast with enough cold air to support significant snowfall. System after system, not just one storm, multiple opportunities. We see one roll through, then another one. Then, on the 28th and 29th, we even get another system with very cold air afterwards. The GFS model? Shockingly similar. We get past the first system. Then towards the 16th, 17th, 18th, that strong low above the Great Lakes, 981 millibars. That's very intense. We see a line that looks concerning for thunderstorms and severe weather. Then we're colder afterward. Not quite as cold as the European model, but still below normal. For the 21st, another cold front rolls through, bringing cooler temperatures briefly. 23rd, 24th, 25th, the jet stream is flat, pretty zonal. That just means really flat. No major troughs and ridges. But there's snowfall happening in southern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York City. That's not a torch. That's not a warm pattern. We're dealing with pretty temperate temperatures, maybe near normal to slightly below normal for a lot of areas. This is not the warm pattern that was originally possible. And then we get a 27th, 28th system. Again, very far out, but both models showing something similar around a very similar time frame in the very long range. The biggest takeaway? A lot of storms descending into the mid-Atlantic and northeast with enough cold air to support significant snowfall. That's the trend on both models, for the medium to long range. Now let me show you something that should give snow lovers even more confidence. Total precipitation on the European model is elevated in the west. We've seen this for a few days. There is precipitation in the east too. Not crazy amounts, but enough to support snowfall opportunities. Cold fronts rolling through, that type of thing. When we look at the anomalies, the biggest below normal area is actually the deeper south. They don't need dry weather. They saw this a lot during summer into fall and now winter. This is an area that really needs precipitation, and unfortunately that doesn't look to come over the next 14 to 15 days, but highly above normal for the entirety of the West Coast and a lot of the Rockies. Total snowfall on the European model shows the mountainous west looking relatively active. For the northern plains and upper Midwest, a little bit less than we've seen over the last couple of weeks. If you compare the past 14 days to the next 14 days, there's a huge decrease in this area. Why? Because we don't have those massive troughs rolling through that support, frequent clippers like we've seen. That goes out the window. We don't see that as much. What we see instead are weaker systems moving through that intensify as they reach towards the mid-Atlantic and northeast. A lot of these clippers are moving up through Canada and moving down into the east, and that's why the mid-Atlantic and northeast see significant accumulation. The GFS model? Shockingly similar. We get a similar area of snowfall. It's a little further south, which is a classic GFS bias, but both models are putting these areas in their crosshairs. The GFS does show a little bit more going on for the northern plains, upper Midwest, and Great Lakes compared to the European model, which keeps things further north. Now here's something critical that most forecasts aren't emphasizing. The snowpack up in Canada. We are seeing tons of snowfall up there, areas where it doesn't melt very easily. And this bodes very well for cold air moving down the road as we reach towards Christmas and afterwards into January and February, basically the rest of winter. Similarly to those Atlantic temperatures we talked about earlier, this Canadian snowpack is another huge factor. We're seeing massive amounts of snow and ice, tons of freezing in the water, ice, snow, all of it. And this is all going to help as Arctic air masses move over these areas. It's going to make the cold even more potent. Here's why. Typically when we see an air mass move from the Arctic down to the United States, it's obviously increasing in temperature as it moves down. It's not staying quite as potent. But when there's snow and ice underneath it, it helps that temperature increase slow down a lot. It helps the air mass maintain intensity. Think about it like this. Arctic air moving over bare ground warms up quickly. Arctic air moving over snow and ice stays cold much longer. That's massive for sustained cold events, and for snow potential. Now let's look at the temperature anomaly forecast, because this tells the real story. The European model shows a major Arctic blast moving in right now. This is going to bring potentially historic temperatures, especially considering we're in mid-December. This is a very intense cool down, and it lasts multiple days through Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we finally see a brief back-and-forth warm-up. We get some pretty intense warm air for Thursday and Friday, the 18th and 19th. Then a brief cool-down, brief warm-up, another cool-down. Well, not so brief actually, because this one moves in for the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 5 days of below normal temperatures around Christmas. Then it looks like we're warming up again, but we move into something that supports more longevity as far as colder air in the east. The GFS model shows the same back-and-forth pattern. Big cool-down, brief warm-up, brief cool-down, brief warm-up, brief cool-down, brief warm-up, kind of brief cool-down, brief warm-up, then we get colder air moving back in. Then we see that major trough finally set up over the east as we're approaching the end of December. Now here's the question. Does that look like a total torch to you? Warm and dominant? No. It's back and forth. And honestly, this back and forth pattern is actually better for snow lovers. Here's why, and this is crucial to understand. When we have air masses moving and changing, unlike what we've seen the last 14 days, where we've mostly just seen cold air dominant, this back and forth actually supports more low-pressure systems, more moisture, more opportunities for snowfall when that cold does move in. We've seen a lot of complaints on social media about lack of snow, but this changing pattern actually creates more snowfall opportunities than a static cold pattern. Static cold is dry, changing patterns bring storms. So the second half of December moving forward, expect interesting things, multiple storm opportunities, active pattern, and adequate cold for snow when those systems arrive. Now let me address the panic I've been seeing online. People throwing around terms like winter's canceled, Christmas torch, all of that. At one point, yes, the models did show a potentially warmer pattern around Christmas. Not the winter's canceled part, that's always been ridiculous, but the torch around that time frame did look possible. But it has looked less and less like a dominantly warm pattern with every model run. More back and forth, and even when the jet stream is flat, it's well to the south. We're probably dealing with some above normal temperatures in the deep south, but certainly not warm everywhere else. And if the models are supporting snowfall in Virginia and DC, we're definitely not in a warm pattern. That's a fact. The pattern has been cold this entire model run, and it continues to trend colder in the long range. Here's something you need to see at hour 366 on the GFS model, and this is just fun to look at. The model does something really strange. The low almost goes southward in a way that doesn't even compare to anything that's happened before. The GFS does some really strange stuff in the long range. This is classic for a long-range GFS model run. The specifics don't matter. When you see something so odd that you don't have anything to compare it to, you get skeptical. Highly, highly, highly unlikely to happen. I could say that 100 times. But the bigger picture? We do get some colder air around Christmas. It gets even colder as we reach afterwards with a major trough in the east, and some coastal activity perhaps present as the southern jet gets infused into it. Those are bigger picture takeaways that definitely could be valuable. We see that jet connection. We get a big trough in the east. If this is something these models begin to trend at for the long range, that's a good sign. It means we're going to return from that temperate to maybe slightly below normal pattern back into something far below normal as far as temperatures. Let me bring all of this together for you because we've covered a lot of ground. The past 14 days have shown a classic positive PNA pattern. Warmer temperatures all over the west. Arctic air pouring into the central and eastern states. The first 13 days of December have been colder than originally anticipated. But this resonates a lot with the winter forecast. Almost exact with the locations and everything. The snowfall has been in areas that were expected. Very interesting confirmation of the seasonal forecast. Now moving forward, we're not looking at a huge warm break like initially expected. We're looking at a back-and-forth pattern with multiple storm opportunities. Tonight into tomorrow, significant snow for the mid-Atlantic and northeast, 4 to 6 inches for many areas, up to a foot in the mountains. This weekend into early next week, extreme cold. Historic temperatures for mid-December in some locations. Mid to late next week, brief milder period. But not a torch, not warm everywhere, just less extreme. Christmas week, active pattern continues. Multiple storm signals for the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Cold air adequate for snow. After Christmas, potential return to well below normal temperatures. Major trough setting up over the east. The models agree on this general pattern. Both European and GFS showing similar signals. and the supporting factors are all in place. Ocean temperatures cooling faster than normal. Massive snowpack building in Canada. Both of these enhance cold air masses and snow potential for the rest of winter. Here's what you need to do. If you're in the mid-Atlantic or Northeast, prepare for tonight's snow. This system is coming in fast, 4 to 6 inches for many areas starting tonight. If you have holiday travel plans, stay flexible. This is not a year for rigid schedules. The weather pattern is active and changing. For Christmas week, don't assume mild weather. The models are showing storm potential with adequate cold. Keep checking forecasts. And for snow lovers, stay patient. This back-and-forth pattern actually creates more opportunities than a static cold pattern. When the cold and moisture time up, significant snow is possible. Winter is not cancelled. It's just getting started. The second half of December looks active. Multiple systems, adequate cold, real winter weather. In tomorrow's forecast, I'll be tracking that system moving through tonight and showing you the exact timing for each city. You'll want to see the updated snow maps and the temperature forecast for this weekend's Arctic blast. The pattern is shifting. The models are trending colder, and the mid-Atlantic and Northeast are in the crosshairs for multiple snowstorms. This is what we've been waiting for. Stay tuned.